When I made my first video, the only Nagoriyuki guide you'll ever need, I never expected to put all of my effort into making more content, and yet here we are. Back then, I said my credibility was that I had over 120 hours in Nagoriyuki, and that my motivation was to create a comprehensive guide for people wanting to learn the character. Here I am today, currently standing at over 400 hours on Strive. I'm actually VIP now. I played in a tournament with Goldlewis, and more importantly, I'm infinitely more experienced at making instructional content. This is the culmination of what I've learned not only on Goldlewis, but in guide making itself. Also, this video is going to be a spiritual celebration on this channel, hitting 2,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much for that. I'm not saying we're going to get a big guide for every sub milestone, but I'm saying you should subscribe just in case, am I right? Anyways, I'm not going to plug any of my stuff until the end of the video, but if you are liking what you're seeing, feel free to check out the description for my links. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with why you should be playing Goldlewis. You should play Goldlewis because his toolkit is unique and his pressure is godlike. This character will knock you down once, guard break you to full risk gauge, and then kill you in one hit. Not only is this character an offensive Chad, but they're actually pretty easy to play. Once you get your half circles down, the character feels very intuitive and has lots of room to be creative. If you like pressure, Oki, and massive damage, this character is for you. Let's begin with normals. Starting with our 5P, which is 7 frames. It whiffs on crouchers, making it very unreliable, and it even whiffs on Giovanna standing. It's +3 on block. It doesn't Gatling into itself, and what I mean by that is we cannot continuously press it, and Soul over here can press it over and over again. But it does get a nice little frame trap after this Behemoth. We'll go over the Behemoths later, and it also can be a good horizontal anti-air for their horizontal approaches. Next, we have 2P. This is a 6-frame normal, our fastest button in the kit. It has a slight disjoint at the very end of the elbow. It hits mid, and once again, it is also +3 on block and does not Gatling into itself. And also, we have the exact same frame trap. Next, we have 6P, which is great for anti-airing. It's terrible on the ground. It has upper body invincibility, but can whiff against ground normals like Ramapal's 5S. It gives a hard knockdown on counter hit, but must be confirmed into a Behemoth on non-counter hit. Next, we have our 5K, which is a 10-frame low. The leg, as we can see right there, the right leg is actually disjointed. So it beats other lows, and it is also jump cancelable. This is also your most active K button, and you can just follow up with 2D for a very tight frame trap. It'll even beat Soul's 5K. Next, we have 2K. This is the fastest low we have in our kit, and also has the same 2D frame trap, but it's only active for 3 frames. Next, we have Close Slash. This is a 7-frame normal that's -2 on block. It's our highest damaging and most flexible starter, so it's definitely your option after you get a knockdown. I forgot I had Soul set to DP, Pog. Next, we have Far Slash. It's a 10-frame normal. It's -7 on block, and it is the god normal for us. So this is very fast with great range. It's just our primary poke tool and is also used in our stagger pressure. This button will often catch jumps, and that's pretty much what it's for, but unfortunately it is countered by 6P, so we have to rely on our alternative poke a lot of the times, which is our 2S. It's a little bit slower, 13 frames. The coffin is disjointed, and it's pretty much our alternate poke, as I said. That's slower, but it can't be low profiled, it can't be 6P'd, and it'll beat other lows. And it even has more range than the Far Slash. Next, we have our 5H, which is 19 frames. This is mostly used as a true frame trap after Close Slash. That leads to massive damage on counter hit. This coffin is disjointed, and it's only -2 on block. Next, we have our 2H. It is 20 frames. The legs are disjointed at the top during this animation, meaning that it could be used as an anti-air in certain situations, but I would still usually prefer to stick with 6P because it's less commitment in general, and this button is mostly used after Close Slash for certain combos. Next, we have our 6H. This is 25 frames. It is the largest range for both normals and specials that we have in our kit. It's mostly used to hit a wall splat from far or in a combo. The only way to meterlessly combo mid-screen is going to be on counter hit. Where's that? On counter hit, we can go directly into our GAT. or skyfish, as professional people call it. Next, we have our 5D, which has pretty great range, and also the orange highlight isn't as prominent as other 5Ds, and of course it hits overhead. So let's show the orange here compared to Soul's orange. See, it's much more prominent, so you can actually get away with it more often. Next, we have our 2D, which is 14 frames. It's a long-range low. It's used in frame traps. That's mainly how I use it, and it's another low poke that can be used alongside 2S. It is a frame slower, but your body gets pushed down a little bit more, so it could be favorable in some situations. Next, let's go over our jumping normals. These are very important for Goldlewis's kit. So first we have Goldlewis's JP. This is 6 frames and doesn't Gatling into itself. It's a close air-to-air button, and this should always be confirmed with a Behemoth Typhoon, like shown. Next we have JK. This is 9 frames. It Gatlings into JD, and it's primarily used in fuzzy overhead setups. It can also be used after an IED. I forgot to set him to guard. So this is what I mean by fuzzy overhead setups. Next, we have JS, very important normal. This is 11 frames. It's a higher air-to-air, and I wouldn't recommend super jumping with this button because you'll usually go too high. This is mainly used to call out jumps out of your pressure or to prevent jumps in neutral. Next, we have our JH, 15 frames. This is our best landing button and our best cross-up button. Make sure to super jump ID if you want it to actually work, because on regular ID it's going to whiff, but on super jump ID you'll be fine. Finally, we have our JD, which is 15 frames. This is a big part of Goldlewis's neutral plan. It controls the ground, and it's a great tool to catch backdash during our pressure as well. And yeah, it very good, very good jumping normal. Let's move on to special moves, starting with the most important, of course, being the Behemoth Typhoon. So Behemoth Typhoons are disjointed, long-ranged guard break coffin moves that are used for pressure, combos, and hit confirms. All Behemoth Typhoons lead to a hard knockdown to retain pressure. All inputs for these special moves are half circles, so there is a little bit of learning curve, but when you get these down, you go Ultra Instinct. So, to save us all time, I'll be giving each Typhoon a nickname, starting with 69874H, which I'll be calling Charlie. Not really, that's not the kind of nickname I mean. We'll be calling this one the Confirmed. So, this Typhoon is going to be used to hit confirm all of your neutral pokes, and will also lead to, and it will also hit gapless after all buttons besides 5P, 2P, and 2K after all those little frame trap. It combos from any hit and leads to a close hard knockdown, and it is only -5 on block, so you are very, very safe. Next, we have 89632H. I'll be calling this the Quick Overhead, and that's exactly what it is. It's a very quick overhead that's often used as a frame trap. It combos on, you get a combo and counter hit, and on non-counter hit, you get a knockdown into a safe jump. It's +12 on block, but can be backdashed after the close slash. Next, let's talk about 87612H. We'll be calling this the Slow Low. This grants combo on hit and leaves you +16 on block. We'll explain why this matters when we're going over pressure in a little bit. It can be mashed against because it's so slow, can be backdash mid-screen because it's so slow, but in the corner, it will actually catch backdash once again because it's so slow. Next, we have 47896H. This is our slow overhead that grants combo on hit, anywhere on screen, leaves you +12 on block, and this will always catch backdash when up close, mostly used after a close slash. And it's most useful in pressure from range because it's more difficult to mash against, particularly in the corner, something like that. But if you do it from that range mid-screen, they can actually just backdash that on reaction. Next, we have 21436H. This is our slow hitting mid. It's the counterpart to that overhead. This should only really be used for corner combos to get that wall bounce. And you're also +12 on block. It's pretty much just inferior because it's only good for that wall bounce. You're not hitting overhead to mid. Next, we have 21478H. This is our fast low that side switches. Must be very close for this to connect, and FD will make it whiff after a normal. Let's show that real quick. Great, I'm already on it. See, it's completely whiffing. Most of the time, you should be doing this as a meaty setup. Not that that's easy to do. You're going to jump a lot of the time. great. Obviously, that's kind of inconsistent. But if you are going to do a button before it, you want to do running close slash because there's a very small chance that you get deep enough that the FD will actually not push you out far enough. That's very inconsistent for my testing though. And from this side switch, if it's blocked, you are +3. Next, we have 23698H. This is our fast mid with decent range. It is the fastest Behemoth, and it's used for frame trapping in spots that the fast overhead would whiff in. Let's show the range for that. There's our overhead whiffing. Oops. There's our 23698H, aka our fast mid with decent range, hitting at that same range. So it also provides a gapless string after close slash. That's mostly what it's used for, and it leaves you +3. And it always gives the launch for a combo on hit and counter hit, but you get a much bigger launch on counter hit. Finally, we have 63214H. This is our fast mid. That is just strictly a worse version of the confirm we were talking about earlier, because it leads to a way farther knockdown. Show that real quick. So we'll do our confirm right up on top of me, and the other one. Yikes, that's full screen. So the only reason I ever use this is for a disjointed ranged poke in neutral. And most of the time, I'm going to follow this up with a 6.6 RC regardless. Because on hit, obviously I combo. On block, I get right in. Oh, also, I guess on whiff, I would PRC it and make myself safe. Let's talk about Goldlewis's security level. So Goldlewis's meter makes certain special moves and a super much better. So the best versions of these moves, you get a level 3. Fortunately, you don't have to do anything to build this meter, it just builds over time. Level 3 is what we are currently on right now. That's what the full meter looks like. So let's start with Thunderbird. This is our 214S, quarter circle back S. This is a 57 frame startup move, but Goldlewis can move way before it's active. This drone covers the ground and goes through projectiles, and it's mostly used in knockdown setups and full screen neutral if you're at level 3. The reason being, the more levels you're at, the farther it goes, the more hits it'll do, 1, 2, or 3, corresponding to the level. The explosion will cancel any block stun that the opponent is in, allowing for an opportunity to close slash or universal throw. You want to wait for the explosion before doing either of these options, because the explosion canceling the block stun can mess you up in the middle of some block strings, allowing for them to mash at certain spots that usually they wouldn't be able to. Finally, when you're throwing this out in neutral, you want to make sure you are covering the sky while the drone is covering the ground. So you need to be ready to cover a jump with your JS. But until then, if you're really far away, you can follow it up with dash blocking and then be prepared. And once again, you wait for the explosion before taking your turn. Next, we have Skyfish. Skyfish. So this I like to call the GAT. It's kind of a meme, to be honest. It's a machine gun that really can only ever be used after throw 5H OTG into safe chip damage that catches jumps. It'll catch some people off guard, but better players know just to not jump after the 5H. It's also the only meterless combo option after 6H counter hit mid-screen. That combo we showed earlier. This special move should just almost never be used, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend it. Next, let's get into our overdrives, or ults, as we like to call them on the channel. Let's start with down with the system, half circle back, then forward P. This is our metered reversal. It can also be inputted with a full circle, and will do more damage for each circle you do, up to 3 times. If you can't do this, I wouldn't worry about it. I can't do it whatsoever with full circles, and it doesn't stop me from winning at all. Our second and final overdrive is Burn It Down. This is 236K, double quarter circle forward K. This is pretty much 1 meter for the game to play neutral for you and put the opponent right in front of you. The higher your security level, the longer the super will stay out and the more hits it's going to do. The super can be punished, but even when interrupted, the beam is still going to come out and hit your opponent. Oops. Well, yeah, you see what I mean? Even if when I'm hit, it stays out. When you're throwing this out full screen, be ready for your opponent to run up and throw you, as they cannot be hit during their own throw animation. One more time, let's try this again. And it goes right through us. So, if you get them to block this, be ready to strike throw by the end of the super, but it does take some practice to not get mashed or thrown out. One setup that I like to do to avoid this is dash up, neutral jump, and 5H, and then land counter or close slash, And this is going to hit them cross up, bait out their throw into a counter hit, and it starts your pressure on block. However, this is going to be, it's going to lose to like a mash 5p. It's time to get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk about neutral. So, despite Goldlewis's size and lack of double jump, I have no problem playing neutral with him because of the large variety of tools he has at his disposal. I'd even say his neutral is pretty beginner friendly. So, his neutral can be divided into 3 easy categories. We have pokes, aerials, and gimmicks. So, let's start with the pokes. The pokes are used to pressure grounded opponents. Quick note before we talk about how to poke, every one of these should be hit confirmed into our confirm that we were talking about earlier. And it leads to hard knockdown and Oki on hit, and you're more than safe on block. So, you can also opt to go for the slow overhead, and it leaves you plus 12, but it won't combo if your poke hit, and it can be backdash mid-screen, as I was saying before. The most optimal way to play neutral with this character to get the most damage is to do an option select after the poke. An option select is a single group of inputs that covers for multiple options. In this case, we're going to be inputting the safe behemoth, the confirm, as we were calling it, into the slow overhead after any poke, and if done fast enough, we'll get the safe behemoth on block a normal hit and the slow overhead behemoth on a counter hit, allowing us to extend our damage. So this is a very tight timing, so if you can't do it right away, don't worry about it. So, back to the poke tools. His greatest poke tool is his far slash, as we were talking about earlier. Due to its speed, range, and ability to catch jumps, its only downfall is that it can be caught by 6p or low profile move. That is where we get to our next move, which we also talked about earlier. Our 2S, which is slower than far slash and will no longer catch jumps, but will beat 6p and low profile moves, as well as has greater range. Our final poke is going to be the Behemoth Typhoon we called poke earlier. It's a large range, fast disjointed poke tool that grants hard knockdown on hit and leaves you safe on block. Once again, I recommend using RC if you have it after these situations. Otherwise, they'll be knocked really, really far away. Next, we have our aerials. So a jump is meant to do 3 things. Number 1, of course, threaten an overhead. Number 2 is to take space. In this case, most of the time it's going to be with our JD. And finally, it's going to be to air, most often done with JS. So, due to Goldlewis's very fast fall, he's able to threaten options in the air that other characters cannot. Make sure to throw in super jumps, aerial backdashes, and empty hops to make your approaches even scarier for the opponent to handle. Once again, these options on both hit and block need to be confirmed into our confirm Behemoth Typhoon for hard knockdown and to be made safe. So, we have 3 main options in the air to navigate neutral. First and most importantly is going to be our JD, both 7, 8, and 9 JD. 7 being get away, 8 being don't take this space, 9 being I'm taking your space. So this is a very quick move that takes up a large portion of the screen. This is the go-to aerial against a grounded opponent. If you super jump this option, it's going to cover less horizontal space, but more vertical space. Second, we have our JS. Once again, 7, 8, and 9 all have their uses. So 7 is going to be a reactive approach to someone else's jump. 8 is the same way if they're a little closer. And 9 is going to be your hard read against their jump. So this button is used for hitting people out of the air. Obviously, I said this before, but you should really not be super jumping into this normal. More often than not, you're going to whiff because of it. It already hits high enough for most situations. Our final aerial is going to be JH, which is used when landing on an opponent. Most often seen with super jump ID JH, also in a bunch of super jumps. Also when we get to knockdowns, we'll talk about this kind of thing. Great. Our final option in neutral is going to be the gimmicks that we spoke of earlier. So we have Thunderbird and Burn It Down. These moves should really only be used in neutral if, number 1, you meet the first criteria, you're level 3, and number 2, you're about 3/4 to full screen distance away from your opponent. Once again, if you're following up with Thunderbird, make sure you're covering the air while the drone is covering the ground, and that you're taking your turn after the explosion. And once again, remember the tips that I told you about Burn It Down. We're finally there. This is what you all came for, the offense. So I already made an offense video, but now you know even more about the character since I uploaded that. So this is more up to date, and it's going to be more condensed. Great. So our best starter is going to be the close slash. So from a blocked close slash, we have 4 main options. First is the quick overhead, which frame traps, and it leaves you plus 12 on block and gives you the hard knockdown and hit into a safe jump. We'll talk about that a little later. If the overhead is blocked, you have a couple options. First, you can frame trap with 2D. You can do a disrespect option. If they're respecting too much, you can run up and close slash, steal another turn. And you can also go for far slash into our confirm for a absolutely safe gapless string. Our next option after close slash is going to be our slow low. Once again, this can be mashed, but people don't really mash against Goldlewis. This is plus 16 on block, and on hit you get a combo into a safe jump. Great. So why is plus 16 more significant than plus 12? Let's go to counterattack settings and set Soul to do a... Actually, wait, this will be after hit. A 5k. That was a true string. Let's show that again. You can see a 5k is coming out now. So close slash into the low into run up close slash is a true string, meaning that theoretically you could just link these things until they're forced to challenge your slow low, right? More often than not, though, I got kind of lucky doing it the first try. More often than not, though, you will be a little slower and you will end up frame trapping the 5k. I'm just cracked right now. But most of the time, it's going to be a great frame trap option. Either way, I would go for the run up close slash if this is blocked most of the time, because it's so strong to be able to threaten the reset of the pressure. They're going to be more incentivized to start mashing against you, and you want people to start mashing against Goldlewis. Our next option is that we can also run up and throw. So once again, we'll still have them do 5k. We actually just punished the Soul 5k from close slash into low. That's phenomenal. So technically, if you get them to block that, you have strike throw mix, right? Finally, our last option that you should be going for is a true string 2D into our confirmed Typhoon. Once again, gapless, can't be DP'd out of, can't be ulted out of, just guaranteed chip damage and building the risk gauge. Next, we have our slow overhead. So let's get rid of this. This is mainly going to be used after close slash if they are backdashing a lot, because this is your option to catch backdash. It's plus 12 on block. You get a combo on hit, and it's really going to mess with the people that are trying to fuzzy guard you, like block high into low, because the overhead option you're going for most of the time is fast, because the low is slower. This is going to mess with your timing because you're hitting a later overhead. So if the slow overhead is blocked, you can dash up and close slash for a frame trap. This is going to be a tight timing against 3-frame normals like the 5k. And you also have a 5h auto-timed frame trap if you can't be bothered. And finally, once again, we have our 2D into confirm Behemoth as a true string gapless. Our final option is going to be our 23698H, which is a true string after close slash, gapless, can't do anything. This is going to be used to mess up their timing if they're trying to DP or use their overdrive after your close slash. It's a very strong option against Goldlewis. This circumvents that, and while they're worrying about DPs, you can hit them with the low or something. So let's talk about the options of what to do after this is blocked. So first, you can go into your usually safe option. Now this actually frame traps because you're only up so many frames. And this also catches backdash as a frame trap too. That's very, very valuable with Goldlewis. And our other option is going to be 2k into our confirm. Once again, this is going to be our true string. And lastly, this is a risk option. You can run up and close slash and steal another turn back. So why do I keep mentioning backdash? Why is this such a threat against Goldlewis? And it's quite simple, really. So backdash after a close slash is going to avoid a lot of our main options, besides, of course, our gapless string and our overhead made to call out backdashes. And if they backdash during our plus frames, let's swap that. Yep. If they backdash during our plus frames, a lot of our frame traps just don't work. So how do we beat this option? And the answer is quite simple, really. You can actually just call it out with a jumping 9D. And the reason for this is going to be on hit, you know, great combo. You can even extend with red RC. Let's show that real quick. Great, right? And on block, or let's say they don't backdash, it's actually just a very quick overhead, honestly. And of course, you're completely safe by the end of it. Not plus, but definitely safe. So close slash is the most important starter to really wrap your head around, but let's quickly go over some of the other ones. So once again, after 5P, after 2P, and after 2K, you should always be going to 69874H, which once again is our confirm Behemoth, because it's a frame trap and anything else is just straight up going to be too slow. Of course, 2K, you also have the 2D option to go into that. But off any other starter, you should be really looking for doing the, once again, the confirm as a true string, or going for the slow overhead as a risk option, and going for the 236 as a frame trap option. And off either of the K buttons, remember, once again, you can go into 2D before doing this, making this a ton safer. 5K or 2K. And yeah, those are the three main options you should be going for. The big overhead, quick frame trap tool, or safe gapless. So I have one final offensive tip. In the corner, you're going to be FD'd a lot to push you away. And this is very strong against Goldlewis because it's going to take away a lot of your standard options. Like that might not work if you're not running. Maybe with running it'll work. Great, it does when you are running. So when people are FDing you a lot in the corner, you have two real options here that I like to use. First, you can begin linking Typhoon Plus frames into dash / or 2S into more Typhoons. This can look something like this. And remember, once again, your / and 2S are two separate poking options. Your / is going to be better in pretty much every way here, besides that you're going to lose the 6P. And 2S is going to be, you know, to call out their 6Ps. So our second option is going to be just staggering directly into more Behemoths. So the best options for this are going to be to go into our quick mid, our slow overhead, and our safe confirm. And the way that might look like is something like this. Oops. This, into this, into this. And then maybe we push him back like that, right? Speaking of that though, when you are too far away, prepare to catch a jump or run in, and you can stuff these options. Let's say just then I was at around this distance. You can stuff these options with JS or JD, and you can go for a middle ground with super jump JD. So let's show that sequence again. Oops. Yeah, too far away, so I go for a jumping normal to try to read the kind of movement they're going to do, because we finally gave them some space. Here we are for the next exciting part of the video. We're going for knockdown setups. Okay. So first I want to say that you only really need to go for these setups if your opponent has a DP or meter. Otherwise, you can simply go for a meaty close slash on their wake up or a universal throw. Remember that throws, or people are 5 frames of invul against throws on their wake up, so you need to wait a little longer before going for the throw, otherwise you'll whiff. But yeah, let's get started. Let's start with the basic option. So just kind of a general knockdown. Most often seen after our safe confirm, maybe a random hit. Maybe we'll get a poke into it, or a jumping move into it, or maybe it'll be a combo into it, right? Anything like that. So we have 3 setups we have in mind, and don't worry, it's not overwhelming. They're very simple. First is our very close options. Like let's say we get a 5P into this. We just 2 and 4S and wait. Let's set Soul to DP so I can show you guys what this looks like. So once again, we're completely safe, and he's going to be hit and knocked away. So that's for our very close setup. I also do this setup a lot when I go for this kind of Oki, and then I just sit here and block. Great. Next, we have our mid-ish setup. We'll get this off of like a poke. And what you want to do is drop it and then dash block. Obviously, a soul probably wouldn't DP there, but you know, that's just how it be. We drop it and then we dash block. And finally, this is going to be our far knockdown. Oops. JD into a knockdown, into run up 2 and 4S, and then just sit there and block and see what they do. So one tip for these setups, first of all, you want to be at least level 2 before going for any of these, because the drone is going to die way too fast. And finally, once again, when you're using the drone, you need to be prepared to play neutral. So of course the neutral's on your side because the drone is covering the ground, but you need to be ready to catch the jumps, or if you see them get blocked, you need to really quickly react and run up and close slash on that explosion. The next knockdown we're going to be talking about is the universal throw. So I have a safe jump for this. We're going to be holding up, then dash macro into JH. Very simple. I have the bot currently set to do random. There we have a block. There we have a block. And there's a DP. The next knockdown we're going to be talking about is after our solo combo. Combo will be listed at the end of the video. It's going to be the same thing, except instead of doing 8, we're doing 9 up forward. Block. Block. Give me a DP, please. Give me a drop more life. Give me another drop more life. Would be quite nice to get a DP around now. Yeah, we did it. The next knockdown we're going to be talking about is our quick overhead knockdown. We get another safe jump, so it's going to be holding 9. Let yourself drop about halfway down. 4 dash and JK. Doesn't seem like it would work, but it actually does. And it is apparently really hard to do while you are talking. We're just going to be doing that motion. Once again, we have it set to random. Blocked. Great, DP. The final knockdowns we're going to be talking about are going to be when your back is to the corner and you want to side switch. These aren't going to be safe, but, you know, they're pretty creative. First is just running up. Great. We have an instant cross up they have to worry about. And second, of course, we have our trusty side swapper, which you throw out raw to beat FD, or if you're a little less comfortable doing that, you can run up, do a button first. If you've made it this far, you know, God bless, but unfortunately we are at the cringe part of the video, so there's no easy way to put this, but Goldlewis's defense is very bad. So he relies on a lot of the same strategies I recommended with Nago. But first, before anything, let's talk about what he does have going for him. So first of all, his 6P is great for covering jump-ins from above. Let's show that. Boom! Great for that. Next, his 5P is a decent anti-air for more horizontal jump-ins. Didn't mean to do that. Great. And next, his JD, when held back, kind of works as a budget Mega Fist. Once again, you'd confirm it into your Confirm Typhoon. Obviously, this does not have a disjoint, which is why it's budget, but it does create a lot of space in front of you, which is pretty good. And finally, our landing JH is actually really great for punishing whiffed normals or grabs. Set this. Just like that. So one last thing, you know, you should take solace in knowing that off any of your hits, if you mash in the corner, you get a hard knockdown that you can side switch after, win over those knockdowns, and putting your opponent in the corner. So given the high reward and your large health pool, mashing isn't a bad answer, especially if the opponent is playing at your favorable ranges. So remember that things could always be worse. At least we have an air dash, and at least we have a meterless or a metered reversal. So let's talk about his defensive problems. So first, his 6P is going to whiff against high attacks, which is a real issue in defending some characters. We talked about the Ramlethal 5S earlier. Moreover, due to the awkward ranges and poor frame data of your P and K buttons, once again, this whiffing on, you know, no Gatlings, and this whiffing on standing or whiffing on crouching opponents. Due to these things, you're probably going to have to lab out individual scenarios to find the best button to press for the situation. And the general tip I can give you is to play your ranges effectively. So look at the distance between you and your opponent and use your fastest button you have for that range. At your closest range, you have your 2P. A little farther, you have your 2K. A little farther, this might not be in range. Push them a little farther out. A little farther out, we have our far slash. A little farther out, we have our 2S. And finally, at our farthest range, we have our disjoint behemoth. Finally, don't forget to use system mechanics. So YRC is your best friend. FT to push them away is all you have sometimes. Guess with a mash and then burst if you get hit. These are all things you need to be thinking of in general, regardless of what your character's tools are, but they're most helpful in characters that are lacking in defense. Let's talk about meter usage. So there's nothing sexy with this character that I use, at least. There are two main ways that I use my meter. First is going to be for defensive purposes, as stated previously. We love our YRCs, we love our FD, we love our reversal overdrives. This is going to be your lifeline if you're stuck blocking aggressive offense in the corner especially. And second, really important, is going to be to extend pressure. So yeah, every time you link into a behemoth, you're going to be pushed farther and farther. Even if they aren't FDing, and obviously if they are FDing, you're going to be pushed even further than that. Using bar to 6-6 red RC into close slash and extend pressure is always a good thing to do. And additionally, you can also 6-6 PRC a guard crush overhead behemoth to force an opponent to stay stand guarding and go for the 50-50 fuzzy. We talked about this earlier. They're forced to do that even if I set the I'll set them to crouch. I'll leave it as enabled. They're crouching, but they're forced to stand. And you can see that they're still forced to stand. So that's another way to use meter. But for the most part, when you're blocking, or when you have them blocking, it's never a bad thing to use the meter to just take another turn to get back in there. Or, once again, go for these setups. The point is, when you get in on them, you need to use all of your resources to keep the pressure on, because you want to get value out of their risk gauge. You want them to lose all of their meter by blocking your Behemoth Typhoons. Finally, I'm going to be leaving you guys with the combos that I use. I don't know if they're optimal, but they're the ones that I use on a daily basis. And that's all I've got. So this video took an insane amount of labbing, script writing, recording, and editing. I'd really appreciate it if you gave the channel a chance by hitting that subscribe button, like the video if you liked it. At this moment in time, you can start scrolling down to take a look at the description for my links. If you want notifications on future streams and videos, go check out the Discord. I also take video suggestions and answer questions in there. Speaking of streams, if you're an avid Twitch watcher, you should consider tuning into my streams. It's mostly ranked, open lobbies, and hanging out. I've used Twitter. Follow over there would be very appreciated. Finally, last plug I swear, I've decided to open a Patreon account. If you have some excess money and want to show your appreciation for the content, every bit helps tremendously. Whew, wow, that was a lot of plugging. Anyways, thanks for watching and supporting my content. I look forward to doing more of these. Bye-bye.
骨のあるやつ